days of the long shadows and very little warmth, the sun weakly peeps through the trees. These cold days really show how wonderful the evergreens are as they shine still with the dew on them. Even though it's midday, it still hasn't gone because it's so chilly. We've started to collect the wood ready for our solstice bonfire. There's lots of folklore associated with greenery. According to most folklore books, traditionally Christmas Eve was the time to bring the greenery in, and not before. If you did so, you would have bad luck. The next thing to think about is, what do you bring into the house in terms of greenery? And obviously we're talking about the traditional evergreens here. So I suppose the two that we think of the most are the holly and the ivy. Now, there's some folklore traditions going on with these two. If you bring the holly into the house first, it is said that the house will be male dominated. If you bring the ivy into the house first, it is said that it will be female dominated. Equally, there's a whole lot of folklore which relates to how much of this you bring in. And again, if you bring in more holly than ivy, then you're going to have a male dominated house. And obviously the opposite way around. Now, in terms of holly and ivy, both of these were seen as protectorates. Protectorates of what, you may ask? Well, you know, people at wintertime were quite worried about the things that were lurking in the dark, spirits, witches, all sorts of things that were unknown to them. And these two plants were both seen as able to protect anybody if they were either on the threshold of the house, over the doorway, or actually brought into the house. Holly could also provide a place for fairies to hide, so you did have to be careful when you brought this plant in to ensure that there weren't already sort of little spirits, sprites, fairies, whatever you want to call them, lurking beneath the prickly leaves of the holly. So just check before you bring in. If you want to do something to help nature, then plant holly and ivy, because both of these plants have wonderful berries that will feed all manner of wildlife. So not only a protectorate, not only something that you can bring in when you're ready to do your Christmas decorations, but also something that can benefit wildlife. The other plant of the season is mistletoe. Mistletoe has a lot of folklore associated with it, right from how you cut it. So the first thing is, you're not meant to let mistletoe drop to the floor, because it is the plant that actually survives between the heavens and the earth, if you think about it, where it grows on the trees. And so people believe that if it actually touched the ground, all of the magical properties would be discharged. How you cut the mistletoe, again, was also important. Some people believe that you had to use a special blade to cut it. And then the other thing about bringing in the mistletoe, again, is when do you bring it in? Now, some people believe that what you should do is keep the mistletoe from last year, keep it in your home all year, and then when you have your new bough of mistletoe, you replace it with this new bough that you've cut. People again would bring this in on Christmas Eve, or some traditions even say to bring it in on New Year's Eve. So sometime over the festive period, mistletoe began to feature in our celebrations. It's traditional to associate mistletoe with kisses. Now, quite why that is, nobody really knows. People do believe that it was a symbol of fertility, so perhaps it was that. But certainly the tradition of hanging up mistletoe and then having a kiss underneath the mistletoe has been around for some time, certainly recorded in Victorian times. The idea was that when you take a kiss from somebody, you also take a berry from the plant that you've got hanging up, and that after all of the berries have gone, the kissing should also cease. So just make sure that if you do have a kiss under the mistletoe, there's actually a berry on there, because if not, it would mean that you were going to have bad luck. Mistletoe was also reputed to ward off evil, and you would find it hanging in many barns to protect animals. Some superstitions say that you must take down the mistletoe before Twelfth Night. It should not remain in the home, and that it should then be ceremoniously burned to get rid of it. One of the wonderful things about having mistletoe in your garden is that the mistle thrush will also be visiting, and of course other birds as well. The mistle thrush, which is a paler version of the thrush that we get in our gardens, is very, very beautiful and will absolutely love the berries from the mistletoe. So when to take your evergreens down in your home is again a bone for contention. Most people tend to go with the idea that it's taken down before Twelfth Night or on Twelfth Night, and that it should be got rid of by the holly being burnt and the ivy given to the animals, to the cows, to the cattle. I like to create a basket of evergreens and seed heads, which I keep on my outside table, and then I bring it in usually round about Christmas Eve, although a lot of my festivities do take place outside as I celebrate the winter solstice. So I like to decorate a table in advance so that I can put my food and my candles and things like that around the evergreens. We can also make a wreath out of evergreens. In its simplest form, it can just be a twist of sticks with a twist of ivy around it. The word wreath derives from the word writhen, which means literally to twist. However you decide to spend the festive season, I do hope that you manage to have it full of folklore and some of the traditions that I've been telling you about. And I hope that you have a magical time over Yuletide.